Thanks for tuning in to Inside Ourlads NFL Depth Charts, NFL Draft Style. That's right. Day 1 in the books. Day 2 is upon us. We are recording day 2. Early day 2. Maybe too early for Ryan. And second and third rounds will be later tonight. And then the rest of the draft concludes on Saturday. So, Ryan, we'll get into the Jets and Giants in a little bit. What is the storyline for the first day?
That I need to drink my first ever cup of coffee in my life.
Oh.
Never had one. I think I need one today. Yeah.
Okay. I'm like you. I don't drink coffee either, so I hear you.
I've never had a sip of it.
Make sure if you drink coffee for the first time, it better be really good. Make sure you splurge.
Okay. I thought the story of night one was the quarterbacks. I mean, I know that sounds a little cliche, but this is history, Greg. I mean, it's 5 quarterbacks in the top 15. That's only the second time that's ever happened. It's only the 4th time I think there's ever been 5 quarterbacks in round 1. Obviously, the Jaguars, Jets, Bears, Patriots, and 49ers better hope for better results than they had in 1999 when Dante Culpepper made a couple Pro Bowls. McNabb was a really good player, and then you have Tim Couch, Cade McNown, and why is the other one escaping? Oh, Achilles Smith.
Oh,
so
I went to that draft, by the way.
Yeah, 3 busts. So gotta hope for. I mean, McNabb's the best, but he's not a Hall of Famer by any means, and obviously Trevor Lawrence is pegged as a Hall of Famer. So certainly I thought it was a quarterback-heavy draft, and I thought that's how it played out. And I was a little surprised by some of the other things. Like there were less offensive tackles picked than I thought would be in round 1. There were no safeties, no defensive tackles. So yeah, certainly some good players left going into day 2.
You know, even though there were that many quarterbacks in the top 15. It was kind of, I don't know, I kind of felt that the quarterbacks were slipping a bit. And I did not expect Josh Fields, to tell you the truth, to last as long as he did, Justin Fields, even though I'm not a big Justin Fields guy, I didn't think he would last that long. And he did. And then and then as they got closer to the Patriots, it was like, of course, you know, they're gonna grab one of their quarterbacks. They don't have to move up. They don't have to do anything. They could just.
It's amazing that they didn't have to move up to get. It's amazing if you believe Mac Jones was their number 1 quarterback. You know, obviously, besides Trevor Lawrence, obviously, if you believe he was the guy, then the 49ers had to pick the different guy, even though they were, favored to pick Jones. That happened. And then they didn't have to trade up. They never had to trade up to the Giants. No one jumped them. Washington didn't jump them. It's amazing that both things happened, that Bill Belichick could just sit there and get the quarterback he wanted at 15.
All right, let's take a look at what happened here of note. So the Niners decided on Lance over Jones, and wow, I mean, I got to tell you, I'm a little bit surprised about this, that Lance went ahead of at least Fields. I knew early on when this whole process started a couple months ago, it wouldn't have surprised me, of course. But the fact that he went over Fields, here's a kid with basically, I mean, this is all about your scouting ability, what you think you're going to get out of the kid, because he just doesn't have enough tape. He just doesn't. He hasn't thrown the ball enough. It was a running offense. It was FCS level. It's just San Francisco is taking a pretty big chance trading up and then taking him ahead of the other 2 guys.
He will always be defined by that trade, right? Even if he's good, it's going to be like, well, they gave up 2 first-round picks for him. So he's got to be, whoever they took in that spot has to be next level good, like annual Pro Bowler good. And that's a lot of projection. Scouting is a crazy business, right? Like we surefire things, swing and miss, and guys you don't expect. My undrafted free agents become Hall of Famers, but that is as much of a projection pick, as you can possibly have. It almost reminds me of college recruiting, where you're taking like a 2-star because you think you can develop him. That's almost what it reminds me of.
No, good point. It was not a big surprise the Falcons went with Pitts. Everybody knew if it wasn't quarterback that they were going to probably take Pitts. But this is now an organization that is looking like they're all in on Matt Ryan. And I know that Matt Ryan was going to be around at least a year, but I get the feeling now Matt Ryan is with the Falcons for at least 2 more years now, based on his contract, because they could still draft a quarterback next year. They can now groom that guy next year, and at least Matt will be there for 2 more years. It's not that I'm against that. I just think it's interesting that that the Falcons are going to be in a little bit more win mode now than you would have thought. Obviously, if they would have went after the young quarterback, but look, the other story is Julio Jones. He's not going to go anywhere before the June 1st deal. I don't know why anybody thought that was going to happen based on his contract, but I'm even still having reservations that that's even going to happen.
Yeah, I don't. I think they're bringing the band back together for another run.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's quite simply what they're doing. I don't know that the NFL is too much of a day-to-day, week-to-week league for me to say that Matt Ryan will be there in 2 years. I mean, he could get injured this year, and then it's like, oh, we don't want him. He played 3 games, or he could be terrible. And I can't say he's obviously there this year. I can't say that next year, if they're 3-13 and picking at the top of the draft, they're not going to pick a quarterback next year.
The other thing is, man, when you take time, I just have never. I got to remember whether or not I've experienced in my lifetime any good feelings about when, and not just feelings, but actual numbers of when a tight end is drafted this high and how he produces, because it just doesn't happen.
Well, it hasn't. He has no tight end has been drafted in the top 5 since 1972.
Yeah, and guys that are usually tight ends are usually drafted in the top 10 don't usually perform as top 10 players. It's just
correct.
It's a risk.
I wrote a big story about that for the Post. That the best tight ends are, Ertz and Kittle and Kelsey and Waller and second, third, sixth round picks. Hall of Famers like Shannon Sharp, late round pick, and it's just the way it is. And the top 10 guys like T.J. Hawkinson's a good player. Vernon Davis was a good player, but they're not the elite guys. And, first round picks overall, general, O.J. Howard hasn't done much in his career. Evan Ingram, David Njoku. First round tight ends are a risky proposition,
Yep.
but I'll go with all the coaches who told me that if you don't want to consider him a tight end, scratch out the TE,
Sure.
put in a WR, and nobody cares that Jamar Chase was drafted that high. So stop worrying about Kyle Pitts being drafted that high because he's as good a receiver as Jamar Chase.
Yeah, that's going to be the thing. Is that I don't think they're going to use him in any way, shape, or form as a tight end. It's just not. He's not a good blocker. They're not going to try to take anything away from his receiving ability to make him more of a regular tight end with blocking skill and all that. So, like you said, just get the TE out of the way. He's going to be a really good receiver. We'll see how that works out for Atlanta. I'm sure Matt Ryan's real happy because he gets to use. I mean, he was at his best when he had, Gonzalez and so forth. So, Chase to the Bengals and Waddle to the Dolphins was not a surprise.
No, and then throw in Jalen Hurts and Devonta Smith, and you have 3 quarterbacks getting their former college receivers back, reunited with them in the NFL. And we make so much of a big deal about chemistry. Well, you have 3 guys who already have the chemistry with their rookie receivers.
Yeah.
I think that's really important.
That's a great point. And then Detroit, I don't think it's a surprise when Sewell lasted because you knew when you hire a guy like Dan Campbell to be your head coach, you're going to want to be a tough SOB type of team.
Yeah. I thought that whoever the Dolphins didn't take, the Lions were going to take. If the Dolphins took Sewell, I thought the Lions would take Waddle. If the Dolphins took Waddle, I thought they'd take Sewell. And honestly, I think if you gave them truth serum, they got the guy they'd prefer for the exact reason you said. He fits the Campbell style.
After the 2 corners went, you mentioned Devonta Smith. Now, the story here is that the Eagles and the Cowboys make a trade. I don't know what's going on. It was the Jets and the Patriots last year, and it's the Eagles and the Cowboys this year. I don't know what's happening. But the story is that the Eagles wanted to jump the Giants because the Giants also wanted Devonta Smith.
Yeah, and that's the truth. I mean, that's not just the story; that's the truth. It was unusual to having three NFC East teams back to back to back like that. It was more unusual to see two of them trade, and the Giants are the bread, excuse me, the Giants are the meat in the middle of that sandwich because they got jumped for the guy they wanted.
And it turns out that the Giants, we might as well stay on the Giants, went with Kadarius Toney, which was kind of a surprise based
Very.
on, I mean, the 20th pick. That's kind of surprising when you take a look at the fact that he jumped over Rashad Bateman. That's a little bit of a surprise. And Gettleman is always after these bigger players, and Tony's this little fast guy. So,
Yep.
not that they picked a receiver, but that it was Tony.
Well, I think all of it. So I think Gettleman made an A+ trade.
Yes.
Uh, got a first round future first, which could be a top 10 pick, especially if the Bears are playing a rookie quarterback. Um, I thought he made an A+ trade. When you get jumped for Devonta Smith, he didn't just sit there and take the BPA on his board. He pivoted and made a smart trade. Don't like the pick really for the Giants. I don't mind the player. I think he'd be good for Kansas City. I think he'd be good for Baltimore. I think he'd be good in Urban Meyer's offense. I don't really see how he fits Jason Garrett's offense. Not a lot of motion, not a lot of sweeps and flies and creativity type stuff, which is what Tony does. So you're asking Garrett to pivot his playbook or Tony to do something he doesn't really do. Don't love that. And once they traded down, I thought they'd fill their biggest need. I thought, okay, this is where they're gonna get an edge guy. They're
Yeah,
gonna
Quiddy
get
Pay was sitting right there.
Pay, or I had heard they like Jason Owa from Penn State. I thought that's where they'd go because I didn't like that at 11, but I thought at 20, okay, you nailed the trade and you're going to get the position you need done. And then they still went receiver, which is what they wanted to do at 11. I was surprised.
All right. Also, as far as the Bears, so this regime for the second time trades up to get a quarterback. It's crazy that without any success under this regime that they're allowed to keep doing this. But they trade up, they get Fields. Look, I'm happy for Bears fans that they were able to get Justin Fields where they got him. I think that was a nice bargain. I think all things considered, that's a nice thing. But once again, they trade up and all that other stuff. But I don't know, giving up an extra first round pick. This is a franchise, like you said, that it could be a top 10 pick again next year.
Yeah. But if you're Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy, what do you care? Because if you go 3-13, you're probably going to get fired. It's the next guy who doesn't have the first round pick. So, no, I would hope ownership had to sign off on that trade. It's a very, it's the kind of move. If you're them, of course you make that trade. You have to save your job right now. So you get Justin Fields in. Maybe he looks like Justin Herbert as a rookie, and all of a sudden you're getting a contract extension, regardless of the record.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to find out how quickly Fields gets on the field. So, Dalton comes over. I can see Dalton starting for a few weeks.
Oh, I think for sure. Yeah.
Micah
And Jimmy Garoppolo's going to start for the 49ers. He ain't going anywhere now. Trey Lance is a developmental product.
Yes.
You take him off the trade market too.
Yep. Micah Parsons. So you were talking about the red flag stuff, and for him to go to the Cowboys, that might not be a good place.
I mean, I think it's It's a place that your red flags kind of get swept under the radar. So, look, I mean, those things. He said, we got to be fair, right? He says those things were immaturity a long time ago. He's grown up a lot since then. So we'll see. I mean, he's going to be put in an environment where his maturity will be tested. So we'll see. Look, as a player, I mean, he could wreck the NFC East for years to come.
Yeah. Then came a couple of offensive linemen as the Jets move up. And I got to tell you right now, at that point in time when it happened, the first thing that I was thinking about was the Bears trade. I was like, there's no way. You did not give up one of your 3 first-round draft picks, because I was looking at the board and I'm going, I didn't even know who he was going after. I was like, who are you going after to give up?
Oh, I knew who he was going after.
So,
sure. He was the perfect fit for the Jets.
Yeah, and look, the fact is that you now have, for Joe Douglas, his mindset, we have now solidified the left side of our offensive line for the next 10 years.
Yep. Yep. I love it. It's the next Ferguson, DeBrickashaw, Ferguson, and Mangold. Only they played next to each other
Yeah.
instead of with a guy in between them. So love it. Love the trade. Love what he gave up to do it. He didn't give up a second, right? He gave
Nope.
up third and fourth, right? I would have actually given up a second and third. So I think they had I wrote about this in the post last weekend. They had the picks. They had 10 picks this year, 11 picks next year. 21 guys are never going to be on your 2022 opening 53-man roster. It's never going to happen. You're never going to have 21 draft picks from the last two classes. So you had picks to play with, and I thought he did a good thing by making trade there.
As far as the Patriots, then
And the other side of that, Greg, the Vikings got the guy they were probably going to take at 14 anyway, Darisaw. So it's
correct.
actually trades that worked out for both sides.
Yes, and of course the Chargers too, getting their offensive lineman. They knew that was going to be their priority, and it was. And again, Mac Jones to the Patriots. Collins to Arizona. Leatherwood was the first big surprise to the Raiders. And
Didn't I tell you that would happen?
yes. And didn't I tell
Well,
you also? Didn't I tell you about the big program? I said Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson.
Colin Farrell, Damon Arnett, and now Leatherwood. I mean, they don't care. They don't care what you or I or other teams. They don't care. Their board is their board. It's very unusual.
Our lads had Leatherwood as a 3rd to 4th round selection.
I mean, come on, that's amazing.
Yeah,
Let's
crazy.
give a shout out to our lads. I think whether it was our lads as a whole or Shanka, I think the first 14 players drafted last night were in the top 15 in our lads.
Oh,
so
excellent.
So
awesome. Kudos. See,
yeah.
That's why you have to order the guide now, because by the time it gets to your mailbox, your favorite team will have all your picks in here. You'll be able to read about them all, even the college signings that are going to come out over the weekend as well. Ourlads.com. Jalen Phillips stays at home, goes to the Dolphins. Speaking of edge rushers, then you had also a little bit later on, you had Kwity Paye to the Colts, which we talked about. That was a definite need for the Colts to go after an edge rusher.
And I thought they might go tackle. I think in our mock, you thought they'd go edge rusher. Yes. I thought they'd go tackle. They went edge rusher. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's where Phillips now again. There's not a lot of tape on Phillips for the Dolphins, but they've done a really good job over the last.
And they have the team. We talked about this during our mock too. The team that took Phillips had to be a team that could afford to swing.
Yes.
Could afford to swing it. Had enough extra picks to take a home run swing, and that's what the Dolphins have.
Now, fairly to Tennessee, he's talented enough to be 22. He's talented enough to be in the top 10 or top 12. But the injury situation, considering how desperate Tennessee was for DBs, a little bit of a gamble there. But if if Fairley stays healthy, it's a home run. So.
Correct. People thought he was cornerback 1 ahead of Surtain and Horn when this all started back in December or whatever. So no, I mean it's a boom or bust kind of thing based on his injury.
When we did the show, our mock draft, we said back-to-back running backs at 23 and 24. Well, it turned out back-to-back running backs 24 and 25, and I was sweating after the Jets decided to pass on Etienne, thinking, oh, please don't let him slip to Buffalo. Please don't let that happen. And thankfully, the Jags picked up Travis Etienne. And how awesome is that if you're a Jaguar fan, that you get Lawrence and Etienne?
I actually hadn't even thought about that. That's a good point. I hadn't even thought
That's
that
awesome.
They reunited. It's terrible if you're James Robinson fantasy football owner.
Oh, yeah. That's you. Yes.
So now, I mean, he was my running back 1 last year. What did they do? I mean, they don't believe in him at all, I guess. I mean, so Etienne and Carlos Hyde, who's running back 3 there? I'm very surprised by that, actually. I thought they had a lot more hole. I get it's cool to reunite Etienne and Lawrence, but that's a team I thought could have used a different kind of playmaker, a different position,
sure.
A pass rusher. There were a lot of places the Jaguars could have turned besides.
Well, like we talked about it, though, Urban was going to do whatever he could to get as many playmakers with speed on his offense as possible. And he just probably went with the first guy on the list. And I'm sure with the first pick in round 2, he could take Elijah Moore. or Rondell Moore
Yep.
or Marshall. He could take, especially the
Yep.
Moores, who are 4.32 guys.
Yep.
All right, then came Bateman. That was no surprise going to the Ravens because the Ravens went with the edge rusher Awe and the receiver Bateman. So
Yep.
uh,
They filled their biggest needs. The Ravens have a great draft every year.
the second big surprise, the Saints going with Peyton Turner at 28 from Houston. Peyton
They
Turner.
reportedly tried to trade up into the top 10 for a non-quarterback. I don't know that. That's not my report. Um, I don't know who they would have been targeting.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't going to be an edge rusher in the top 10, so I don't
Probably
know.
a receiver.
Very, very strange. Very strange draft for the Saints.
Yeah, Peyton Turner, our lads, a fourth, fifth round grade for Peyton Turner as he goes 28 overall. Packers went with their corner. We picked that. We picked the corner over the receiver. And Aaron Rodgers, maybe he knew that was coming because he's just getting, there's all sorts of Aaron Rodgers news now. And he's targeted 3 teams he'll get traded to. So I don't know what's going on there. That's not good.
Look, the Rodgers situation has been boiling over for a year. It's not a surprise that his camp leaked this on the day of the draft, which is the anniversary of him feeling burned by the Packers. So, not surprised at all. It seems irreparable to me. But I was on both press conferences last night when John Lynch said they made a call, and it was a quick call because they were told, nope, he's not available. He said when the MVP is available, you make a call. So he admitted he made a call. I was on the Packers call when Gutekunst said that we're not trading him. He's too big a part of what we do here. We'll work through it, but we're not trading him. And honestly, I kind of think they're going to call his bluff. I kind of think they're going to say to Aaron Rodgers, we're not trading you. Report on July 29th, and we'll see if Aaron Rodgers says, no, I'm going to go the Barry Sanders route or the Robert Smith route or the Andrew Luck route, and I'm done. I'm going to go host Jeopardy and do other things in my life. We'll see if he has the conviction to do that. Yeah.
And then Rousseau, another Miami guy with limited experience, goes to the Buffalo Bills. We talked about the Bills needing some more help on defense, and that's what they did. So taking a look at what's available now as far as the top prospects, as we get the guys that have, basically slipped, the top couple of guys that have slipped, the kid from Notre Dame, JOK, slipped. And the Jets are sitting there with the second pick in the second round. He could go the first or second pick.
Absolutely. I think he's a great fit for the Jets. That's first round value for the Jets. Knock on him, obviously, is that he's too small to play linebacker in there, that he's more of a safety. And if he's a safety, then he's not as valuable because he's not a coverage linebacker. So, but no, I think that's a terrific pick for the Jets.
Yeah, they're talking more about him as a hybrid type. So we'll see. Those are kind of out there.
Jets could also get a running back. Jets could also get Williams, the North Carolina running back.
Yes, they could. And Barmore is probably the other top guy to slip, the defensive tackle from Alabama. So he goes down. The Georgia pass rusher.
Oh, Jalari. Yep. There's I haven't heard this, but Peter King, and obviously everybody in the NFL reads Peter King, reported that teams had some concerns about his knee going back to high school, ACL injury. So if that's the case, that explains why he might be completely off some teams' boards. So he could slide a little ways. And then there's who was the other guy?
Remember we talked about the Georgia deal a couple of weeks ago about how all of a sudden the last couple of cycles, these Georgia kids that come out, there's some baggage there.
And they've underachieved. Yeah.
Yep.
So that I think that probably matters, but a little less than the Peter King's report about the knee.
Okay.
You mentioned Barmore, no defensive tackles, and I was surprised Trevon Moehrig, the safety from TCU, didn't go. No safeties, no defensive tackles.
Yes, very good player. Is the top safety on the board. He's still out there. Mayfield. There's still about a good 4 or 5 offensive tackles that are sitting there.
Tevin Jenkins didn't get picked either, right?
No, he did not.
So, what? Only three offensive tackles last night? Is that possible?
I believe so. Yeah,
I mean, that's crazy. I saw mock drafts with as many as six. I think we had six in our mock draft. So
that's right. We
only
did.
three,
Yeah.
only three offensive tackles. That's
The
surprising.
top center, Dickerson. This is exactly early second round where we suspect that he would go. So we'll keep an eye on him as well. We mentioned the receivers again, the Moores. Those are the hot names because of their speed. And then you mentioned Javante Williams because there's a drop once you get past Javante Williams in the running back room. So,
Yep.
all right, Ryan, what are you working on for this weekend? If we go to the New York Post, what are we going to see?
I'll have draft grades on every team on Saturday. As soon as it ends, I'll have draft grades for the Giants and Jets every pick. Tonight, I'm doing something on the quarterbacks and kind of is it? You and I have talked about this on this show. Is it even worth picking Kellen Mond, Davis Mills, or uh, Kyle Trask in the second or third round? Teams do this every year, and it's like they forget that eventually they're going to pick a first round quarterback anyway. So they're just kind of throwing away mid round picks on guys like Kyle Letta for the Giants or Mason Rudolph or Josh Dobbs, or everybody's looking for the next Russell Wilson and forgets it's a 1 in 50 shot.
Yeah, well, that's everyone's got an ego. They think they're going to be the one. So
Yeah. I think you're much better off getting a guy who plays, and you worry about getting your next quarterback when you get your next quarterback, when you need
hey,
your
I
next
was
quarterback.
saying this on the Jet Show. I said, look, if you spend a fourth round draft pick on James Morgan by year two, he'd better be your backup. Otherwise, why are you picking him?
I can even live with that, Greg. A fourth round pick, I can even live. A day three pick, I can even live with. But like I'll use the Falcons as an example. If they take uh, Davis Mills tonight with whatever they are, 35, 36, I'm going to lose my mind because he's not going to replace Matt Ryan. You are going to replace Matt Ryan with whoever the first quarterback is in the 2023 NFL draft. So you're just throwing away your second round pick if you pick Davis Mills. He's not taking over. You're not going to give him the chance. History shows us that doesn't happen. So I'll go crazy if that happens.
All
But
right. Well,
very possible. No.
it's going to happen. So you're going to go crazy.
Yeah, I'll go crazy.
Okay,
Yep.
good. And we'll talk more about that then on our recap show on Monday. All right, so we'll check out what you got for us, including those grades. I'll look at those grades, and we'll talk about those grades and everything else on our next show when the draft is over on Monday, Ryan.
Yeah, I think Raiders fans will probably be very disappointed in me, like they were very disappointed in me last year.
Oh, okay. Well, Alex Leatherwood, come on. It's your own fault.
All right,
Thanks,
Greg. I'll
Ryan.
talk to you.